Welcome to the Relationship Series, Season 8. I am Genevieve, and today we are talking about Girl, Leave That Man Alone. I have been wanting to say this line forever and ever and ever, amen. There are so many times in the therapy context where I've just been wanting to say, girl, leave. But of course I can't in that context. So I was like, where else can I say it? So here I am. Now we had to start here because one of the hardest things to do is leave a relationship, a romantic relationship at that. Romantic relationships can hijack our sensibilities, our intelligence, our logical thinking, our ability to make good decisions, and tap into levels of emotion that we didn't even know existed. So here I am saying, girl, leave. I have wanted to yell this phrase the most in therapy throughout the years. I wish somebody had said it to me. I wish I had said it to my younger self that was like stuck and scared and feeling unworthy. As a therapist, I have seen women, and I have been that woman who has survived things that they should have left, who have stayed in things that they should have been long gone from, that overstayed their welcome, that stayed long past the due date till the thing is spoiled. Okay? If I look back, every single one of my crazy life decisions were made within a terrible romantic relationship or just coming out of a romantic relationship. So that says a lot. I'm not saying that one study of one person is anything relevant, but I'm sure somebody out there can relate to what I'm saying. Now, let me clarify, ladies, because I am advocating for the leave as an act of empowerment and self-love, and not as an act of punishment or revenge or bitterness or anything like that. So this is a very personal and autonomous decision. When you recognize, and you already know, when you recognize that leaving is going to give you more than staying. So rather than he doesn't deserve me, although he doesn't, it's I deserve me. I deserve a chance to be my best me. So this is not about leaving recklessly, of course. This is about a strategic exit. It can happen quickly. Strategy can still be quick. But I want you to know that it comes from a root, or it comes from a source of understanding your worth, understanding your value, understanding what you deserve, and pursuing that, as opposed to staying stuck and remaining the kind of person that allows things to happen to them versus makes things happen for themselves. Today, we get to break down 5 of the many reasons why women stay in these kinds of relationships, situations, friends, whatever you want to call them, and then what really conditions us to stay to the point where it is really to our detriment and to our harm. So we'll look at why we stay, and particularly why I stayed. Then we'll do a review, and I went through my process from beginning to end. As most of you know, I went through a divorce. I identified a 12-step leaving process from my own life experience of leaving my marriage. And I realized that there were 12 significant moments that brought me to the point where I made the final decision to leave my marriage. Leaving is not a moment. It's not like in the movies. It is a process. And so we're going to walk through that process. You may locate yourself in the process. You may recognize yourself in the process. You may identify yourself or a loved one in the process. And that may be helpful for you because you may not be able to remember as clearly as I can the first moment where it hurt so bad that you considered leaving, but you will be able to recognize yourself somewhere along the way, along the continuum, along the process. And as you pinpoint yourself, you will be able to determine what your next step could look like. My journey from leaving my marriage to today introduced me to the many versions of myself that evolved and matured. And that was an extremely powerful learning process for me. And that's why I say it's a process. It's not a moment. At the end of today, because I've been doing a lot of work around grieving, I found that there's great meaning and power in ceremony, in ritual, in memorial when it comes to the grieving process. And so we'll do that together as we close, do a quick ceremony and release the things that the relationship specifically, and release that man that you need to leave alone. And this is not just a current man. Okay, so this is not like, oh, I'm in a relationship now and it's bad and I need to check it out. No, and I need to check, all the red flags and all that kind of stuff. No, this could be a man that you were connected to 10 years ago and he can still call you, girl. He can still call you and be like, yeah, I'm in town, and you drop everything and you go. Or you're flying through, and you text and you call and you say, hey, I'm flying through. I'm going to be there for an hour, 2 hours, 10 hours, one night. Girl, leave. You are not a drive-through. You are not a stopover. You are not a layover. The point is, this is not just about the current relationship that you're in. It could be about the boy that you had a crush on elementary school who told you were ugly, and you've had weight issues ever since, not eating, bulimic, working out every day. So you understand, girl, leave that man alone. Leave that man alone. So I just want to make that clear. And I also want to make clear that this is not about leaving every single relationship, context, or issue that bothers you. Okay? So this is not like, oh my goodness, I need to leave every relationship where there's conflict, argument, where there's disagreement. This is specifically about relationships where there is toxic, harmful, violent, abusive, ongoing behavior. My clarion call is to the woman who is sitting in a relationship now. He has cheated over and over. He has demonstrated disrespect. He hasn't provided for you. He doesn't take care of his kids. He doesn't honor you. He calls you names. This is about that relationship. We're looking at power differences, power dynamics, control, authority, isolation, hitting, cheating, monitoring, stalking, monitoring spending, stealing. These kinds of behaviors, they do not belong in healthy, quality relationships. They don't even belong in average relationships. He likes cold weather. I like hot weather. He wants to be a vegetarian. I like to eat meat. Those are just natural differences between people. Now, if you don't want to be with somebody who doesn't eat meat, that's up to you. But what I'm saying is that's not a girl leave moment. Oh my goodness, I need to get out of this relationship because he decided he was going to be a vegetarian. It's not that kind of vibe. Girl, leave that man alone. That man who hits you, abuses you, cheats on you, that man who stalks you, that man who steals from you, that man who doesn't provide for you, that man who disrespects you, that man, when I say girl leave, and I say girl leave that man alone, that man is not your friend. That man does not like you. He has shown you and proven to you time and time again. He is not good to you. You do not feel loved by him. He is not warm, cozy, fuzzy. He is not coming home to give you all of his heart and to be vulnerable with you. He is not bending over backwards to help you and to make sure that you are good and you become the person you need to be in life. He is not supportive of your dreams and backing you in the things you do and celebrating your accomplishments and your achievements. He is not that guy. But if you don't do that for yourself, if you don't want that for yourself, if you don't see that for yourself, then you will continue to allow him to hurt you with no consequences. You will continue to allow him and give him permission to tell you what you deserve and what you're worthy of, instead of you telling yourself what you deserve and what you're worthy of. Girl, leave that man alone. Girl, leave that man alone. Okay, let's talk about why women stay. And these are all me. I have been every single one of these reasons. Number one, we are trained to endure. Simple as that. Society, church, culture, they train women to endure. Stay loyal. Stay respectful. Be about your man. Look for a fine man to get married to. Every young girl is waiting for their Prince Charming. Okay, thanks Disney. Every young girl should be on the lookout, preparing themselves and keeping themselves chaste for Prince Charming to come along, to scoop them up, to choose them, to select them, and then they have to work to make sure they keep him. And so I think I'm being facetious. But the truth is that social narratives are really powerful. The messages that we receive day in and day out about our value and about our worth and about what creates that value and worth, especially when it comes to getting married and being a wife and being a mother. Those are very powerful messages. Those are messages that shape the understanding and the beliefs, the core belief system of young women all over the world. And I was one of them. I was virgin till I got married. I was like, oh yes, I did everything right. I waited. It has to get really, really bad for me to leave, for any of us to leave. And then even when it gets really bad, when we realize it's gotten really bad, it's hard for us to leave because we've already invested so much time and energy. And by then, maybe you have a kid or two and you're like, oh, I'm deep, I'm in it. And so to dig your way out at that point is even more difficult, it's even more challenging. So many more layers to climb through. So it's tough. I know for me, it had to get really bad for me to leave. And it did. And even then, I was like, oh, wow, what am I going to do? When I left, I was like, yeah, I can't do that. That's crazy for the rest of my life. Absolutely not. Nope, I'm not doing that. And you know, my dad, Muslim, African, West African, Muslim man who was raised by a father who had 6 wives. He had a lot of wives. And of course, he could take care of all of them. He wasn't an abusive man as far as I know, but he had a lot of wives. So my dad would have grown up in a context that was very different. My mother as well. The context they grew up in the Caribbean and in Africa. You stayed married. And many of us have parents and grandparents who come from that same background. You stay married. You get married and you stay married. And women in those days didn't have a lot in terms of their autonomy. Whereas I grew up a first generation Canadian, education, financial stability. I have the luxury and the privilege of making choices and decisions that allow me to leave those kinds of situations, for me to go against the cultural narratives, for me to resist. So, number one reason why I stayed, I was trained to endure. I did an interview with a lady for Sam and Jen Got Divorced, which is the other podcast that I do with my ex-husband. And you know what she said? This is where all of this kind of came from, because I got so heated. You would never notice. You would have never known in that interview. But in the interview, she said, hey, Jen, kudos to you for leaving. And then she followed that statement with, and in the moment, I will tell you, my insides were on fire. I was set ablaze. She said, kudos to you for leaving, but don't wrong the women who have been given the grace to endure. Even now I feel it. I feel heartbreak. I feel real heartbreak because that narrative is so damaging. What do you mean? The grace to endure abuse? The grace to endure mistreatment? That is what we're talking about here? That's what we want to celebrate and glorify amongst our generation of women? God forbid. No. I said, you know what? That promotes an oppressive narrative. A destructive, harmful, violent, oppressive narrative. I'm pushing back. I'm going to push back against that statement. Because I don't think any of us have to endure mistreatment from a Christian perspective. There's that idea of grace and compassion and offering forgiveness for wrongdoing and behaviors that can be hurtful and so on. And I get that, and I do get that. But when we're talking about like ongoing harmful, but you think God is up in heaven saying, oh, look at my daughter down there enduring that mistreatment and that abuse. Oh, she has a special crown awaiting her. You think God, yeah? You think that's what God's doing? Or he's like, oh, wow, look at my daughter down there enduring abuse and mistreatment. And wow, look at my son down there doing that to her. They're just such a wonderful picture of grace personified. Look at my son down there hurting her over and over again. Look at my son down there hurting himself over and over again. Goodness, what a picture of grace. Look at her forgiving him over and over and over and over and over and over, 70 times a day. God is not pleased. I promise you that. He's not saying you need more grace to endure. He's saying, girl, leave that man alone. He is not mature enough to handle you. He doesn't recognize your value. He cannot take care of you. He is not the one. Girl, leave that man alone. number one reason why I stayed is I was trained to endure, stay loyal, stay faithful, stay present, stay in it, keep working, make it work. Second reason why I stayed and why I believe a lot of women stay is that we are trained to hope and believe. So I think as human beings, we're conditioned to value reward. And so when something makes us feel good, then we want more of it. We love pleasure, we love reward. I think we're trained to hope and believe in the possibility of that reward. When there's mistreatment, it's not consistent all the time. There are beautiful times. The beginning of the relationship involves all of those good times. It's like, oh, we have great conversation, and oh, he bought me gifts. When the bad times come, it's like, oh, whoa, that wasn't cool. But then there's an apology, and then there's making up. And so the push-pull becomes very addictive. It's almost like, people who sit at the slot machines and they keep pulling the lever and, they're waiting for the three things to come across so that they can win a jackpot or win $100 or whatever the case is. That hope and belief that the next pull is going to bring about the jackpot is enough to keep people sitting there for hours and days. It's like an addiction. So it's literally like, is the next time going to be the time when he returns to the person I've known him to be? Is the next time going to be the warm time, the fuzzy time, the nice time, the sweet time, the love time, the gift time? Oh, no, this is not that time? Okay. Whew. But then the next time is. And so that reels you back in, right? It's like, oh, yes, this is what I really want. And that intermittent reinforcement has to do with conditioning, and conditioning us to desire reward, to look for, to pursue, to hope, and to believe in the reward that's coming. That's definitely part of the reason why I stayed. We want to hope and believe for the happily ever after. We want to hope and believe for that Disney ending. We want to hope and believe for our own happily ever after, right? Like, why don't we get that kind of thing? Why aren't we the chosen one, Yeah, and so sometimes when the relationship fails, we have to revisit like our belief system and like, oh, what does that really say about me? And some of us say really bad things about ourselves at that point, So I think we are trained to, number one, endure. Number two, hope and believe. Number three, to receive. And I know that when I got married, my husband was like, I'll pay for everything. I'll send you to school. I'll work. I was like, bet. You provide, you protect, you pay for things. And I think our training in receiving leaves us vulnerable to the inherent power difference that's involved there. It's normal. It's natural for us to receive. And in a relationship situation, if we stay in the position of receiver, which traditionally we have, if we stay in that position of receiver for too long, then the gap widens for how we can recover ground when and if we transition out of that relationship. He makes the money, he pays the bills, and women will typically take care of the home or take care of the children and so on. When and if the relationship transitions, then the woman, her socioeconomic position will likely decrease. Women make less money than men. I think that the statistic is still 70 cents on the dollar that women make versus men. The fact that women make less money creates a significant barrier to leaving. I was concerned when I left because I didn't have a job. I was doing odd jobs, casual work. So it was a concern for me in terms of what I was going to do to provide for myself. It's such a blessing to have family that I could go back to. I was like, Mom, hey, I need to come home and, spend a few months and not pay rent and get myself back on my feet, which she graciously allowed me to do so. But not everybody has that, which is another reason why women stay. So I think, yes, we are trained to endure. We are trained to hope and believe. We are trained to receive. I think we are also trained to be afraid. And I remember being afraid of being single for the rest of my life. Single is not safe. As a woman, you need to have somebody. And this is the message that I received, whether spoken or unspoken. To be a woman is unfortunately sometimes a liability. And we are not always safe in our skin, especially when men are around. Men can be predatory. That is just the truth. It's fact. So to be single and to be alone as a female is not always safe. But to leave a man is also not always safe. And especially in my marriage and the level of aggression and violence and rage that my ex-husband exhibited, I was like, yo, this could be one of them dudes that chased me down and killed me off because he didn't want me to leave him and he can't stand rejection. So, there was genuine fear around his mental wellness. I was genuinely afraid, and I do believe that many women are afraid. So, number 1, we are trained to endure. Number 2, we are trained to hope and believe. Number 3, we are trained to receive. Number 4, we are trained to be afraid. And number 5, we are trained to leave and create. Leave our families and create a new family with our partner. For me, there's shame and guilt involved in not being able to go and do that. I think that I also questioned the level of support that I would receive from my community, from my friends and family members. So I think a lot of us stay because we feel shame, and we don't know what kind of judgment and what kind of side eye we're going to get, what kind of comments we're going to get when and if things do not work out. You know what's really funny is that most people really just wanted to make sure I was okay, which I didn't anticipate. I really did expect, and this is probably a testament to my level of expectation at the time, my lack of hope, my lack of faith in the beauty of my community, which I've since come to really value and appreciate and recognize. Plus, leaving is hard. It's like, man, I didn't put all this effort and energy in, and now I'm going to leave it all behind. Thank God we didn't have any assets or children, because that would have just been a whole other level to deal with. And I recognize that many women have to deal with that level when it comes to leaving. You have to think about children. You have to think about assets. We're not trained to come back, right? It's one way out. So I think I was definitely concerned with going backwards and being judged for that. I also didn't trust myself to make good decisions. What I found out about my ex-husband and being mistreated and being abused and all of the lying, cheating, stealing made me distrust myself. How could I choose someone who was so cray-cray, like crazy work? That to me was unsettling and very disorienting. For someone who thinks of herself as capable, as competent, as somewhat intelligent, it was very disheartening to realize that none of that translated into my choice of partner, into my choice of man. So it was hard. It was hard to reconcile that back to myself. And I also think that part of what made me stay was I was studying what I do now. I have talked to countless people about building quality relationships and about relationship skills. This is what I do. Part of me didn't want to look foolish. Like, I should know better. I should have the skills and the tools and the resources to make my marriage work. You know, you're studying to be a counselor. Like, if the counselor can't make her marriage work, then we're all doomed. I'm here trying to teach, and support other folks when it comes to their relationships, and I can't even maintain, manage, or keep my own relationship. You know, that's a lot, the pressure to put on myself, but it's true. Part of me didn't want to leave because I should know better and I should be able to do better. So I think all of those reasons are reasons why we stay as women, and they are reasons why I stayed. And some of us will go into like, well, it's not so bad. Let's make excuses. Let's try and cover it over. Let's try and pretend. And we do a great job of convincing ourselves that it's not as bad and we didn't really see or feel or hear what we saw, felt, and heard. And then we stay and convince ourselves to stay. In tandem with all of the expectations that we have for women, there's unspoken tolerance for the bad behavior of men that women endure, that women stay for, that women are mistreated by. Like, there's a whole other side to this thing. If there's women who are experiencing these things, then there's also another side to the story. And the other side is scary as heck. This idea that we're covering over, making excuses, that we're tolerating, that we're creating space for this mistreatment. We're creating and allowing and giving permission for this mistreatment, for this toxic, harmful, violent, abusive behavior of men, by men, toward women. Like, we're making room for it. Every time we say it's okay for you to hurt me and for there not to be a consequence, we make more room for the behavior to continue. We say we are tolerating it. We are okay with it on some level. That is the truth. That is the message that we are conditioning and shaping ourselves and each other to receive. It's okay for you to hurt me and get away with it. It's okay for you to hurt me. There are no consequences. Oh, it's okay for me to hurt her and for me to get away with it. Oh, it's okay for me to hurt her and there are no consequences. And regardless of how you want to put it, how you want to sugarcoat it and everything like that, that is the message at the core of it all that we are receiving and sending and receiving to ourselves and each other. And then history illustrates men not holding themselves accountable or not holding themselves to a higher standard. I actually had a male, a real one, like a live one with blood pumping through his veins in the 21st century. And he said, well, you have to understand that in this day and age, if you're going to be with a man in this day and age, you have to accept the fact that at some point during the course of the relationship, he's going to cheat. It was heartbreaking, though. Why can't we hold ourselves to a higher standard, young men? Why? This is what you expect from yourself? It's like, I can't even count on myself to be in a monogamous, long-term, committed relationship or marriage. I can't even count on myself to be faithful to my partner. At the end of the day, what we are teaching and learning, ladies and gentlemen, is he can hurt you and get away with it. He can hurt you and you have to accept it. He can hurt you and there are no consequences. And then not only will he get away with it, do you have to accept it and there are no consequences, but on top of that, you are uniquely chosen and equipped to endure and to stay. And you have special grace and compassion and superpowers to be there in that toxic relationship and be mistreated and abused and debased and oppressed and disrespected and disregarded. That's what we're teaching and learning, ladies and gentlemen. So then you have to now show up the same way. You're expected to show up the same way, to smile the same way, laugh the same way at his jokes, and listen the same way at his stories, cook the same way without poisoning him. That's the expectation. That's what you're saying every time you give permission, every time you let something slide, every time you let something go. That is the expectation that you are setting, that you are reinforcing. Girl, leave that man alone and go live your life. Your whole life is waiting. Okay, let's talk about my 12-step leaving process. Moment number 1. This was a night my ex-husband and I were engaged at the time, and we were in his work truck. And I remember us having an interaction, and it was the first time that I felt so uncomfortable, I considered leaving. In that moment, I was like, girl, leave this man alone. I just remember feeling it and knowing that if I felt it again, and if I had to continue to feel it, it was going to be a problem. I dismissed it and kept it moving, but I remember that time. The second moment, I remember it clearly. A friend of mine was just kind of asking about the relationship, how things were going. And I remember wanting to say, things feel off. But it didn't. This man turned me into a whole liar. Don't let no man turn you into a liar. I'm out here trying to live my life in such a way that I don't have to lie. Okay? We are living our lives in such a way that we don't have to lie. And I couldn't be honest. And it was that second moment that I thought, girl, leave this man alone. This man is turning you into a whole liar out here in these streets. And I was very cognizant of the fact that I was protecting myself, but I was also protecting him. And that did not sit well with me. I remember it like it was yesterday. The third moment was the moment I realized I was lowering my standards. I was settling for less than I deserved and less than I wanted. and I had to adjust in order to fit. We had gone to was some social event for someone of his friends, quote unquote, at the time, and I just remember feeling so out of place. Like this was not my tribe at all. I couldn't talk the way I wanted to talk. I had to sort of contort and chameleonify myself. I had to become something I wasn't. And I remember that as one of the significant shifts internally. And I thought, girl, leave this man alone. You don't even vibe with this tribe. But again, I told myself, well, Jen, you got to be reasonable. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's nothing really wrong with the people, them. But I think what I was actually saying was, Jen, this is probably the best you're going to do. So it was a moment when I had to lower my standards, a moment when I had to lie, a moment when I knew that I was hurt and uncomfortable enough to leave. And I let them slide. Stage number 4 for me was when I stopped talking. I didn't feel like answering any more questions, being forthcoming with my heart, my information. If you know me, you know that I will share if I feel comfortable. If you have my heart, if I feel safe with you, I'm going to talk to you. I stopped sharing with my friends about what was going on. I stopped sharing with him about how I was feeling. And I remember specifically, I had to stop sharing with my friends and family members about how I really felt, because I knew that if I shared the full story, they would have given me permission. They would have said, girl, leave that man alone. Moment number 5 was when I got sick. Yeah, I was going to the naturopath, the doctor, and my body was speaking. The body knows. Most times your body knows before you decide to pay attention. Your body's giving you all kind of cues, breaking out in hives. You got irritable bowel syndrome. Your joints are stressed and seizing up all of a sudden. There's a book by Gabor Mate, and it's called When the Body Says No. That is the book. When the Body Says No. And that is when your stress levels increase and your somatic responses start to cue you on what is going on and wrong in your life. At the time, I wouldn't have picked up on it. But now, knowing what I know, I'm like, that was definitely moment number 5 when my body knew, but my brain wasn't quite there yet. And so feelings of anxiety, feeling like you're on a roller coaster going straight down when you're just standing still and supposed to be calm. My body and my emotions were definitely a moment of recognition. Another moment was when I realized I should have got a Grammy. I should have got a Grammy and an Oscar. I was pretending and performing, and this was different from having to lie in a situation in that I was pretending to be the person I wanted to be. I was pretending to be in the relationship I wanted to be in, and we can convince ourselves, we can tell ourselves all kinds of, and we can act the part. I was pretending to be happy. I was pretending to be fulfilled. I was pretending to be grateful. I was pretending to be sweet. I was pretending to love this person that I didn't even really like. Ugh. And I hate to say it, but it's the truth. And it was a moment when I look back now, that was a huge sign for me that I was on my way out. Because who can pretend for any length of time? How long can we pretend for? How long can we fake it till we make it? Like, sometimes we don't make it. And if there's a way to restore and recover, then great. But if there isn't, then girl, leave that man alone. Stop pretending that things are normal. Yeah, stop trying to win a Grammy in your own life. You're playing the lead role in the biopic of your life. Like, what is that? I remember being on that trip with their family and feeling completely alone. And I think this one really breaks people, because we don't get into relationships to be alone. We get into relationships to be with others, to connect, to be seen, to love, to be loved, to be accepted, to accept. It really is heartbreaking to realize that you feel more alone inside of a relationship than outside of it. That was definitely a moment for me. Moment number 8 was when a friend of mine shared with me that she was leaving her marriage. It was 10 years in, they had a child, and she was like, I'm done. I remember thinking, I wish I was you. Yeah. I was like, oh my goodness, you can be relieved and somewhat joyful going through this terrible life break situation, because it offers you a doorway to possibility for the rest of your life. And I was like, ooh, I'm envious. So that was a moment for me that I realized, that I'm in this leaving process. Moment number 9 was the moment I sat down and I started prayer journaling. I started imagining what my future would look like. Work, school, friendship, where I would live. I started imagining what it would look like if I wasn't married. Lying, cheating, stealing, that kind of stuff is like, that's beyond me. That's beyond me in regular day-to-day life, much less a marriage. And I was like, okay, what would my life be like on the other side of this? I went to a workshop of some sort, and they were asking those kind of questions. Like, if you had all the money, or you didn't have any money issues or whatever, what would you do? If your life was exactly the same as this 5 years from now, would you be satisfied? Would you be happy? And I was just like, whoo, I almost had a panic attack. I was like, oh my God, I cannot imagine what it would be like to be married to this person and living like this in 5 years. Not 4, not 3, not 2, not 1 more year. Absolutely no, never not. That was definitely a moment in the leaving process. Moment number 10 for me was the day that I said I was leaving out loud. That was the day I confronted my ex-husband, and I was like, this is not going to work for me. I said it out loud, and then I went to the bathroom. I looked at myself in the mirror. As I had looked myself in the mirror many times before and told myself, like, you can make it. You can figure it out. You can work on it. It's going to work. It's going to be okay. Keep praying. That day changed everything. I looked in the mirror and I said, girl, leave that man alone. That was a moment for me in the leaving process, saying it out loud, looking at myself in the mirror. Moment number 11 was the moment I stopped pretending. I was like, that's what it is. You have to accept it because I already have. And it was difficult because I had been grieving the length of the marriage. And for others, it was going to be new information, and brand new information at that, because I had been probably doing a very good job of pretending that things were okay for the most part. Yeah, it was a time. The final moment for me in my stages of leaving was the moment, probably if you have ever left anything, if you've left a job or if you've left a version of yourself behind, if you've just decided, I'm not thinking like that anymore, I'm not approaching life like that anymore, I'm not doing that particular habit anymore, or if you've ever dropped anything cold turkey, I'm not smoking, I'm not drinking. That final moment for me is probably the moment that if you've ever left anything that you would remember as well. It's when the decision becomes so crystal clear, like on the inside of you, that nothing can change your mind. There is no going back. Your face set like flint in the direction of where you're going the rest of your life. The rest of your life is waiting. Everything is possible. You're willing to do the work, to rebuild, to recover, to do what you got to do for yourself. And this happened for me. And I remember the day when it became completely clear to me. I was turned off. It was probably a couple of months after, and we were at my mother's house. I randomly asked, how are you doing? And he was like, oh yeah, basically I'm still the same. And I was like, ugh. Everything in me locked up and locked away. That is the real girl leave moment, when you know without a shadow of a doubt, there's no going back. There's no turning back. There's no thinking back, nothing. And I knew that day. I said, yeah, no, you will never have access to my life again, ever. That is the real girl leave moment, when you can say, you will never have access to my life again to hurt me. You will never have access to my life again to deter me from my dreams and from all that is possible for me, from all that I'm worthy of, from all that I'm deserving of. Never again. Whether it's bad eating habits, whether it's poor exercise habits, whether it's a bad work situation or job or whatever the case is, there's a point where you get to and you're like, yeah, you will never, this will never, ever have power over me again. I will never settle again. That was the leaving process for me. 12 steps. Maybe not everyone needs to leave a relationship, but if it's not a relationship that you do need to leave, there's something that even now is holding you in the position where you're stagnant or stuck in your life. Your whole life is waiting on the other side of your girl leave moment. The cost is too high to stay in a position where you know that there's better, or you're allowing for someone or something or some circumstance to hold you down and to hold you back. Time is of the essence. Maximize the time that you do have and pursue your dreams, pursue your passion, pursue the things that you know you deserve in your life, pursue the level of living that you know you can attain in your life. Go for it. That was Girl Leave, Why We Stay, and the 12-step leaving process. And we are going to do a grief ceremony. I will post that later on. It'll be a quick clip just showing you how to release. And I'd love to hear a leaving story from you. And if you resonate with anything that I've shared, if you've had any of those moments yourself in your own leaving journey or your own leaving process, I would definitely love to hear from you. So comment, girl, leave that man alone. Share it with somebody if they need to hear, girl, leave that man alone, because you don't need to entertain folks who are going to disrespect you, who are going to ghost you, who aren't going to be consistent with you, who aren't going to be clear with you. Clarity is kindness. Do not for 1 second condone or entertain the lack of clarity in relationship. If dude shows up and he's like hmming and hawing and hmming and hawing, girl, leave that man alone. Listen, if he ain't clear, if he ain't sure about you, about himself, about life, what do you need that for? Girl, leave that man alone. Let him figure out his stuff. Let him do it on his own time and in his own way. You really don't need to be giving wife energy when you have no status and you have no title. Do not. Girl, leave that man alone. You are worth too much. Girl, you are too cute. You are too smart. You are too boss to be showing up in somebody else's life trying to beg for attention and energy. Nah, leave that man alone. Girl, leave that man alone. And join us next week on the Relationship Series. We'll be talking about Girl, Leave That Mindless Eating Alone, or Girl, Leave That Meal Alone. See you next week on the Relationship Series. I'm your host, Genevieve. And again, it is an honor to transform with you.